Hey YouTube friends, today it's kind of cold and windy outside, but I want to clear up a dozen myths and misconceptions about chickens and eggs. I've been raising backyard chickens for over a decade and I get asked questions about them all the time. So I thought I'd share some of my personal experience and help people understand chickens a little bit better. Chickens are awesome. They're interesting, they're easy outdoor pets to keep, and they give you eggs. We haven't had to buy eggs from the store in over 12 years. We always have more than enough, and we even have enough to give away. And that brings me to the first misconceptions about chickens. Myth number one, people think you need to have a rooster in order to get eggs. But you don't need a rooster to get eggs. A rooster is a male chicken. Hens are female chickens who lay the eggs. The rooster's job is to fertilize the eggs, but hens will lay eggs whether a rooster fertilizes the eggs or not. Most hens will lay about one egg every day or two. So even if you only have a small flock of 3 hens, you could be getting 1 to 2 dozen eggs a week. Wouldn't that be nice? Especially when the price of eggs in the grocery store is up over $3 a dozen. And you don't need a rooster to get your hens to lay eggs. But what if you do have a rooster? And that brings me to myth number 2. You can't eat fertilized eggs, some people think. But yes, you can eat fertilized eggs. Fertilized and unfertilized eggs look and taste exactly the same. And you don't have to worry about accidentally cracking open a fertilized egg and finding a baby chick or an embryo, because fertilized eggs have to be tended and treated a certain way in order to get the embryo to form and develop inside the egg. Most hens do not lay on their eggs to help them develop baby chicks. Besides, eggs are collected daily and they have no chance to develop an embryo. In 12 years, we've collected over 30,000 eggs. And we've never collected an egg that had a noticeable embryo or chick inside it. We've never been able to taste the difference between fertilized or unfertilized eggs. Myth number 3, roosters only crow in the mornings. I wish that were true, but unfortunately, it's not true. Roosters commonly crow throughout the day and sometimes throughout the night. I went on a mission trip to Guatemala once, and there was a rooster who crowed all through the night and kept our mission team up all night. Thankfully, we've not had any rooster at our home that crowed in the middle of the night. But they certainly do crow early in the morning and throughout the day. And it's annoying when they crow early in the morning and you want to sleep late. Most people grow accustomed to the roosters crowing after a few weeks and they learn to sleep through it. Even my wife, who is a light sleeper, has grown accustomed to it. But it is something to consider. Roosters can be annoying, but they can also be helpful. They watch over the flock, raising alarms when there's danger, and they will often defend the hens from predators. Plus, it takes a rooster to hatch your own baby chick, if that's something that you are wanting to do. If you have neighbors who live close by, or you live in an urban area, I don't recommend keeping roosters. They will annoy you and they will annoy your neighbors. And that's why many town ordinances don't allow you to keep roosters. Since you don't need roosters to get eggs anyway, just stick to the hens. It's the easiest. Myth number 4, chickens are mean. I've heard this from a number of people. Usually it comes from someone who had a bad experience with chickens when they were kids. All the hens that we've kept over the last 12 years have been tame and friendly and made great pets. Even my youngest daughter felt totally comfortable handling them when she was in preschool. My middle daughter used to like to bring one of her favorite chickens inside and paint its nails. Just like with most pets, The personality of your chickens depends a lot on how much you handle them. If you spend a lot of time with them, especially when they're young, then they will be more tame. But if you hardly ever handle them, or if they're hardly ever around people, they may be scared of you or even defensive. I suspect that may be the reason that some people had a bad experience with a chicken at some point in their life. I wonder, were those mean chickens that they experienced raised on a farm where they were neglected or hardly ever with humans? The chickens we raise, and I think this is true of most backyard birds today, are more like pets than farm animals. They know we care about them, and they are tame and they are gentle with us too. The only chickens that are sometimes aggressive are broody hens and roosters. A broody hen is a hen that decided that she wants to sit on her eggs. She thinks she's going to hatch them. So when you go to collect the eggs, you may find a hen who thinks she needs to keep her eggs warm. And when you reach in to get those eggs that she's sitting on, she thinks you're trying to steal her babies. Now, most of the time, for us over the past 12 years, we were able just to push that broody hen off of the eggs and collect the eggs without any issues. Every now and then, rarely, a broody hen may try to peck at your hand. It didn't hurt when it happened to me, but it did startle me. But that doesn't make that chicken mean, does it? I mean, from her perspective, you're stealing her babies. And like I said, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, a broody hen doesn't peck at you. And 9 times out of 10, there isn't even a broody hen in there. So the chances of that broody hen being aggressive is very, very slim. The other exception can be roosters. Usually, roosters are fine, but some roosters can be more aggressive than others. A rooster's job is to protect his flock. He warns the hens of danger, and if need be, he jumps in to fight off predators and save his girls. If the rooster sees you as a threat to his girls, he may try to fight you. But that doesn't mean all roosters will be aggressive with you. It just depends on the rooster. The rooster we have now actually runs from us. He's literally a chicken. We haven't had a lot of roosters because we don't need them and we don't really want them crowing all the time. We did get one rooster by accident from some chicks we bought at Tractor Supply. He was a fluffy little bantam rooster, about half the size of a regular rooster. And he would sometimes strike out at my wife and my daughter, and he would scare them. But he never really did any damage. But it was annoying, and it did scare them. We've had 3 other roosters since then, and none of them have been aggressive towards us. So overall, that's only 1 out of 4 of those roosters that was aggressive. Still, you don't really need roosters anyway, so if you have one that's mean, just get rid of it. Myth number 5, you need to wash and refrigerate your eggs. And I can understand why people think this. I mean, they refrigerate eggs in the grocery stores, right? Well, actually, we refrigerate eggs in grocery stores in the United States, but they don't refrigerate them in Europe. And there's a reason. Fresh eggs are coated with a natural substance called a bloom. It seals the egg and prevents air and moisture and bacteria from getting inside the eggshell. If you do not wash off the bloom, you don't have to refrigerate the eggs. However, if you wash the eggs, then you must refrigerate them. The safest way to handle fresh eggs that will help them last longer is to not wash them and leave the bloom on the egg. You can keep unwashed eggs at room temperature for about 2 weeks, and unwashed will keep for over 3 months in the refrigerator. I'll leave a link for a video I made about how to make your eggs last longer in the description. The bottom line is, you don't need to wash and refrigerate your eggs. That's a myth. Myth number 6 is that brown eggs taste different than white eggs. That's something I used to believe too before I had my own chickens. It just isn't true. The color of the eggshell doesn't affect the taste at all. Some breeds lay brown eggs, other breeds lay white ones. But brown eggs and white eggs taste the same if the chickens eat the same food. I did a whole video on this myth. I'll leave a link for that in the description also. But to summarize, the main thing that affects the taste of an egg is what the chickens eat. Chickens who have a healthy diet of high quality chicken feed, supplemented by time free ranging in the yard, will have the best tasting, most nutritious egg. But the color of the egg by itself doesn't affect the taste. We get both white eggs and brown eggs from our chickens, and they all taste exactly the same. Myth number 7, eggs are bad for you. This isn't really true. Eggs have gotten a bad rap because they are high in cholesterol, which is known to contribute to heart disease. But according to an article by the Mayo Clinic, the cholesterol in eggs doesn't seem to raise cholesterol levels the same way as the other foods, such as those high in trans fats and saturated fats do. Eggs are low in calories but contain 6 grams of protein. Eggs are also a good source of other nutrients we need, like vitamin D, which aids in bone health and the immune system, and choline, which helps metabolism and liver function. Eggs are healthy and nutritious, but the bacon and sausage that we often eat with eggs, not so much. So if you want to have a healthy breakfast, eat an egg, but leave out the bacon and sausage, or just save those for special occasions. Myth number 8, chickens smell bad. Backyard chickens, properly cared for, do not smell bad. I think chickens have gotten a bad reputation about this because large commercial chicken houses often do smell terrible. And it can smell awful when a farmer spreads chicken litter on their fields. But these huge industrial operations have nothing in common with a small flock of backyard chickens. You have to understand, industrial chicken houses cram hundreds of thousands of birds or more into relatively small spaces. That kind of concentration is definitely going to create some terrible smells. But that's an industrial operation that bears no resemblance to a small flock of 6 to 12 birds in your backyard. A small flock of chickens isn't going to stink up your neighborhood. In fact, a 40-pound dog is going to produce more waste per day than 10 chickens. And in my opinion, dog poop smells way worse than chicken poop. Plus, chicken poop is a great fertilizer for your lawn and garden. There are a few things that you can do to ensure that your chickens don't start to smell bad. First of all, keep your chicken coop and your chicken run clean and dry. Clean the coop regularly or use the deep litter method. I'll leave a link to the deep litter method in the description. Don't overcrowd your chickens. They'll need about 4 square feet of coop space per bird and 8 square feet of space per bird in the run. Clean up broken eggs quickly and replace soiled bedding in the nesting box so it doesn't start to rot and to stink. And let your birds out of the coop to free range regularly. This makes the chickens happier and healthier, and it also disperses their waste over a wider area while it fertilizes your lawn. Myth number 9, chickens are a lot of work, but they really aren't. Chickens, like any other pet, require care and attention. But compared to other pets like dogs and cats and even fish and hamsters, I think chickens are probably one of the easiest pets to keep. They live outside, so they don't dirty up your house, and they don't smell bad, and they're easy to maintain. You can make caring for chickens even easier with a few simple techniques. Use large capacity feeders, and then you won't have to refill your feeders as often. I use a 5-gallon feeder for my chickens, and I have 6 chickens, and I only have to fill it about every 2 weeks. You can also invest in an automatic watering system, and you won't have to refill their water that often.
The way my chicken watering system works, water collects off on the roof over my run, and it goes into a gutter system and just comes down into this 55-gallon barrel, collects there. One good rain fills up an entire 55-gallon barrel, and from that it's just a gravity feed system through a hose, and it comes down here to a valve. It's a spring-loaded valve. Water fills the tray, and as the water fills the tray, the weight pulls down on the valve and shuts it off. As the chickens drink it and there's not as much water in it, the valve opens back up and it fills the tray back up. So from this, I'm able to fill, one good rain will fill this whole barrel up, and that's enough to last for probably 3 or 4 weeks if there's no other rain. But of course, all it takes is another rain to fill up the barrel, so the system works really well. But you don't have to use a barrel. You could simply run a water hose from your spigot and it will work just the same way. And there's a lot of different types of watering systems like this that are out there and available. It makes life a whole lot easier than using one of these 3-gallon watering containers that are constantly getting dirty and have to be cleaned out, and they're kind of a pain to have to refill. And you have to refill them once a week, at least once a week. So we only use those when it gets really cold and the water system freezes up.
Myth number 10. You have to keep chickens warm in the winter. Unless you live in extremely cold conditions, chickens do not need much help staying warm in winter. After 12 years of experience, I can confirm that chickens are perfectly capable of keeping themselves warm in the winter. As long as temperatures remain above 20 degrees Fahrenheit, all you need to do is give your chickens shelter from wind and rain. We have never lost a chicken to cold weather. Furthermore, our chickens never congregate under a heat lamp. They usually choose to sleep outside the shelter of the coop in the run. They like to be out in the open. So obviously they're not cold, even when the temperatures are below freezing. And don't ever put a heater in your chicken coop because it's a fire hazard. There have been a number of instances where coops caught fire due to the heaters. In extreme cold temperatures, below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, we shut our chickens up inside the chicken coop at night, and we turn on a small heat lamp. Now, this is not a heater, it's just a special light that gives off a small amount of heat. And we put them in the coop at night and let them back out during the day. Even this may not be necessary, but we do it anyway, just as a precaution. A feral rooster took up at our home this winter and stayed outside when the temperatures were down below 10 degrees and when the wind chills were below 0 degrees for 3 days in a row. The rooster had some mild frostbite on his comb, but other than that, he's been fine. Chickens are very cold hardy and need very little, if any, help to survive normal condition in cold weather. The only thing you really need to worry about when it comes to cold, freezing weather and your chickens is that their water is going to freeze if it's outside. There's a number of ways that you can deal with that. They make special heaters that help keep the water in the chicken watering machine from freezing, and you can use that. We don't do that. We just simply give them fresh water every day when the weather is below freezing and their water is freezing. And it's not that hard to keep up with because where we live in Northwest Georgia, we have days when it goes below freezing, and we do have occasionally some really cold days, but it's not very often. So for us, it's just easy enough to manage it as it comes. Myth number 11, chickens spread disease. This is a misconception. Chickens are no more likely to spread disease than any other animal. Yes, it is true that according to the CDC, chickens can sometimes carry harmful germs that can make people sick. But so can dogs, so can cats, and most other animals that people keep as pets. I think chickens get a bad reputation because of problems associated with large industrial chicken operations that house 50,000 or more chickens in concentrated spaces. But a flock of backyard chicken pets has almost nothing in common with the extreme conditions encountered in industrial chicken operations where tens of thousands of chickens are involved. So just as with any pet, a cat, a dog, a gerbil, or even a fish, you should use common sense. Wash your hands after handling your pet. Try to be clean. But chickens are no more dirty or dangerous or likely to spread disease than any other pet animal. In fact, they may be less likely because they're kept outside, away from the family. And some people are allergic to pet dander, and chickens may be a really good alternative if that's the case for you. Myth number 12. Chickens will keep bugs out of your garden. Well, yes and no. I've heard a lot of people say that about chickens, but I'd have to say that chickens are not going to keep all bugs out of your garden. Chickens do eat a lot of bugs if you let them free range, but they will also eat your garden, especially things like cabbage and broccoli and lettuce. And they will also dig up and destroy small seedlings and flowers and even damage well-established vegetation if it's not protected. So it's not practical to turn chickens loose in most gardens as effective pest control, except maybe in the off-season or in an unplanted bed. Chickens can help control bugs in your lawn and garden, but they won't be the whole solution. Plus, you have to be careful because you don't want to put chemical pesticides out in your yard and then release your birds to free range and eat those pesticides that could kill your birds or make them sick or even make its way into the fresh eggs that you collect and eat. So these are all things that you have to take into consideration and be careful. And what this means is ultimately getting a flock of chickens for your backyard is not going to solve the bug problem in your garden. They can certainly help, but they aren't going to be the whole answer. I can understand why people have these different myths about chickens, because I had a lot of those myths too. I didn't grow up in the country. I grew up in the suburbs. We didn't have farm animals when we were kids, and it wasn't until about 12, 13 years ago that I got chickens. And so I learned a lot of things after I had them. I learned from experience and personal experience. That's true for a lot of things in life, isn't it? A lot of people have misconceptions about Christians and what they believe and how they act. Maybe they've had a bad experience with someone who believed in Jesus, and they base all of their concepts about Christians on those bad experiences. The same is true for somebody that you're not familiar with, someone who's from another country, someone who's of a different race or a different culture, someone who's of a different religion. You have to be careful that you don't judge people or religions off of ignorance or very limited experience. Because just like with these chickens, you could have these misconceptions about what those people or that religion is really like. It's much better to give people the benefit of the doubt and be kind and be respectful to people. And if you really want to get to know a group of people, really dig in and don't base your opinions just off of one person or one experience. You have to really dig in and go deeper than that, because people are complicated. We don't want to be people who operate out of ignorance. Think about that. Whatever you're experiencing in life, whatever you're doing, think about that. Try to be an open-minded person. Recognize that all people are created in God's image, and try to respect people and treat them with respect because they are important and sacred beings. That's what my religion teaches me. And I don't always do a great job or a perfect job at living that out, but it's what I work for, what I work towards, and what I teach the Christians that I have influence over to do as well. And I hope that that's something that you will remember and that you will do. So let's remember that, and let's get out there and let's grow and be fruitful.